We had Larry Kudlow on CNBC earlier in the week, and he said, or made clear, that the administration position has been that you don't want to extend the extra $600 of unemployment benefit that currently expires at the end of this month. Is that position changing at all? Does the strong number today cement the position?
Well, I think that you've heard the president say we have a real concern about creating an unintended incentive for people to stay on the sidelines in this economy. And that $600 plus up in unemployment, many believe, has contributed to that. Now, you see these numbers today. People are coming off the sideline. The increase in labor participation is encouraging. But the next rescue package, which President Trump has made clear that we're supportive of, really needs to focus on growth and getting people back in the workforce, but also growing this economy. That's why we want to deal with issues like a payroll tax cut, which will put money in the pockets of working Americans immediately and make capital available for businesses on an ongoing basis. We think liability protection is critical as businesses adhere to state, local, and CDC guidance, that they would be able to do that without fear of an avalanche of lawsuits that would stifle our economy. And all of those policies will be what we look at. But the most important thing is that the next rescue package provides support for families and creates the kind of incentives to keep this economy growing strong, as evidenced in the jobs numbers today.
I totally get that, Mr. Vice President. You mentioned the numbers earlier. 22 million jobs lost since March, added back 7.5 million.
Right.
It's almost certain next month we're not going to add 15 million jobs because there won't be 15 million new jobs available. So what would you say to those people that lost their job in March through no fault of their own and still didn't have a job offered to them to go back to if that extra unemployment benefit expires at the end of the month?
Well, I would say to them that we're going to make sure there's unemployment benefits, but whether there's a plus up that was in the last legislative package is the only thing that's being debated. I mean, look, what we want to do, what President Trump is determined to do, is to be there for families who, through no fault of their own, have been impacted by this pandemic, to be there for small businesses. I mean, you see the jobs numbers today, nearly 5 million jobs created. That's a lot of people that were sidelined and laid off simply because of this pandemic. And we made it possible through Paycheck Protection for those small businesses to find their way through, to keep people on the payroll. And now they're coming all the way back into the workforce. But I want to tell you, Wilf, that as we go forward, we're confident. We're confident that states across the Sun Belt are going to be able to take the kind of steps necessary to stem the tide of rising cases and positivity rates. We're confident that they're going to have the testing and PPE supplies and medicines to meet that moment. And I think the only long-term threat to a vibrant American economy is the kind of policies that Joe Biden and the Democrats are advocating, where you have a president who built this economy on a foundation of tax cuts and rolling back red tape and unleashing American energy. In Joe Biden, you've got even this week, in the midst of challenging times in the life of our economy, Joe Biden said he was going to raise taxes in America. And we know that their plan, his version of the Green New Deal, crushing the economy through regulations, crushing the American energy economy by banning fracking, all of those policies, I really believe, and most Americans know, would be exactly the wrong prescription as we're seeing the American people standing up again and moving this economy forward. And that's why President Trump and I are going to fight every day between now and November 3rd to make sure that we get 4 more years in the White House to bring this economy all the way back and then some.
That said, Mr. Vice President, could there be an argument in the future to increase taxes? Just the stock market's right next to you, the chart of it as we speak. It's already experienced its V-shaped bounce. The economy is bouncing, but still has a long way to go to complete that V-shape. And I guess as we stand, it does look like the virus has hurt, and the responses by both government and central banks has hurt the have-nots in society more than the haves. Is there any case to increase, for example, capital gains taxes on stocks at some point in the future, given that stocks have risen so much, to rebalance things?
I think the last thing that you would ever want to do at a time of a growing economy, or for me as a conservative any time, is to raise taxes on working families or businesses across this country. Look, President Trump has made it clear from the outset of this administration, the key for this nation's future is growth. And from early on, the president focused on getting this economy growing again. More than 7 million jobs created in the first 3 years. Wages were rising, and rising most rapidly for hardworking blue-collar Americans. And I think as you're seeing this economy coming back, 400,000 jobs created, African Americans, literally seeing people coming off the sidelines. It should be a strong affirmation that the foundation President Trump laid of less taxes, less regulation, more American energy, free and fair trade is exactly the right prescription. The Democrats and Joe Biden, they're laying out their prescription for America, and it's exactly the wrong approach, not just in a time of a pandemic, but it's the opposite of the policies that grew this economy the last 3 years, and they're going to get this economy growing more than ever before in the next 4 years.
Mr. Vice President, I know we're up against the clock. One final question, if I may, which is on China. Have they crossed a line past the point of no return of normal relations, if you will, by passing the national security law in Hong Kong this week?
Well, the national security law that China passed and now is imposing on Hong Kong is it's a betrayal of the international agreement that they signed, and ultimately it's unacceptable to freedom-loving people around the world. And President Trump has made it clear that we're going to be modifying our trading relationship and the trading status with regard to Hong Kong. And we're going to continue to speak out on behalf of the people of Hong Kong and on behalf of human rights of people within China. Look, China has a choice to make. They can join the family of nations through not just economic engagement, but through further political liberalization and human rights, or they can continue down this authoritarian path. And what we hope is, as the president has done, he stood strong against China. He stood up by imposing tariffs on China. He's been tougher on China than any president in my lifetime. But all through the while, the president's always made it clear that we want a better relationship with China. We want to reset the trading relationship, but we want China to recognize international agreements, to recognize the human dignity of all of their people, and that includes all the people of Hong Kong.